let's just sew whatever. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we are going to be sewing up the Duncan messenger bag by Sincerely Jen Patterns. This is the Bag of the Month Club for March. So if you are not a part of the Bag of the Month Club, I would highly recommend it. It's super fun. There's a new pattern every month. I think it's 4 months or 6 months, I cannot recall. But this is the second time I have made this bag. I talked about all of the changes I made in a cutting video, etc. But it's a fun one. It's a lot. You can see here my pocket's a little crooked, which is a big bummer, but like I feel like once this is full of stuff, you can't really notice, but like it's just like it's fine. Which is a bummer because it's super cute, but there's a grab handle here. It is a sling bag, so it can be worn on either side, and there's a pocket here. Open it up. Slip pocket. Slip pocket. And then on the inside I added a padded laptop sleeve as well as a zippered pocket. And I have the laptop sleeve on the back of the bag, and then there is our zippered pocket. I do finish this with binding. That is not in the directions. But yeah, it is fun to make. I don't know that I'll be making another one anytime soon. This was my second one in 24 hours and I'm wiped. But they're both stunning. So this is how the straps are connected in the pattern instructions, and it's a lot of work and I'm not in love with it. There's nothing wrong with it, I just couldn't get it to work well. So I do talk about how I hacked it to make them a little bit more simplified. And they're super cute. I did not use riveted magnets. That is a magnet and a rivet, but you could use a riveted magnet and it would be just as awesome. But I absolutely love the look of the buckles on this bag. Highly recommend that. But let's just get into sewing it, you know? It's a good one. The first step I'm going to do is quilt the back panel. I'm just going to use this ruler I have sitting here. Is this one longer? Don't tell me it is. No, okay, good. I'm just arbitrarily starting. I'm only going to add a few panels. You could definitely do something a little more involved if you wanted to. I'm just going to do 3 inches apart. I did use foam on the back panel. And I am going to baste stitch around all of the edges just to keep everything compressed as well. You can't see those, but I can. I'm going to be using a navy blue thread, so love that for me. You don't want to go too crazy with the quilting or your panel could shrink. And we don't want that. Alright, and then really quick, I'm just going to go along all the sides and trim the foam absolutely love these Kai scissors, but they're so sharp I have to keep the cap on them. Because toddlers. Not like she couldn't pull that off, but still. Next step we are going to start on is the front pocket, no, the front flap with a pocket. So we're gonna need like a 6.5 inch piece of zipper tape. I cut mine to 8 so that my zipper is just completely out of the way of top stitching, but you do want to make sure that you trim it down before you start putting the rest of the bag together, because it could add a little bit of bulk to some of your seams, and we don't want that. So we're going to start with our front flap main panel. Anyway, your zipper pull should be pointing up. Tape that in place, and then we'll grab one of our lining pieces, right sides together over the zipper. And this pattern, it really gets you because you're like, oh, this is gonna be easy. Not like the pattern isn't easy in small chunks, but you're like, whoa, whoa. It's fun. It's my second one in 24 hours. All right, so then we're going to press that seam open. And lay our lining flat. And top stitch those together. All right, and then next we're going to add the other side. So that's this smaller piece. And that goes on the other raw edge of your zipper. Tape that down, and then we'll grab our other lining. And create another zipper sandwich. And I am using about 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch seam allowance. But again, the way the flap is constructed, you have a little bit of wiggle room there. And we'll press that open and top stitch only through the exterior fabric and the zipper tape, not through a folded piece of lining like we did the other side. So your lining fabric should be touching one another. And then we're going to lift this piece out of the way, trim down our lining pieces to match, and sew those shut. And I'm actually going to just leave that. All right. So now we're going to grab the top of the front pocket, and these pieces should match up. If not, your seam allowances weren't quite right, and again, you'll fix it when you add the flap. We're going to fold that up and top stitch, but before I do, I'm going to trim down my excess zipper tape. Because I don't want it to like peek through the seam or anything like that. I mean, it's not going to pull through, but because I'm using like not a really thick fabric, you just don't want it to look out of place. This would also be a really good spot to add like a little woven label or something. All right, and then we're going to add the bottom of the flap. And I'm gonna be honest, nothing is really stopping you from having this pocket be on this side or this side, depending on what you want to do, or if you installed your zipper pull wrong or something. I don't think it matters which side. So if you flipped the top and the bottom, I don't think it's a reason to have to like start over or anything like that. And then again, I'm going to trim away my zipper before I top stitch it down. So we're going to fold this open. This is where I'm going to be adding a nameplate as well on that front flap. And then if you are following the pattern, not me, what you would do now is add the back of your flap, but I'm not going to be doing that. I am adding my buckles and magnetic snaps to the flap before I sew it shut in a nameplate. Rainbow nameplates are always so fun because you've got so many different colors. Alright, we're going to find the center. I'm going to place this centered about 1/2 inch from the top edge of my top stitched flap accent piece. I'm going to take my seam ripper, just gently press that in. Alright, and then we're going to measure 2.5 inches in from the outer edge, but down at the bottom, make a little mark. So I measured 2.5 inches from this edge, but the mark is down here. So let's see. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 inch and 5/8 in. If you're measuring from the bottom corner. So that's going to be where we add our buckles. So I just wanted to have that marked before we get there. But isn't that so fun? Like, it came together pretty quick. It looks super cute. I don't know why I'm so excited. I do know why I'm excited. It's because I'm low-key terrified my idea won't work. So I mentioned in the cutting video, if you didn't watch it, no problem, that I was not a huge fan of the initial pattern's buckles, and that's okay. They work, they look good. I can't make them look good, and I know that. So I'm not even going to try. So what I came up with was a 2 inch by 6 3/8 inch piece of vinyl. We marked for a hole at 1 3/8 inch. We made a mark for a magnet at 4 3/8 of an inch, and then we made another hole mark at 5 3/8 of an inch. So this is the top and this is the bottom. You're going to punch that hole, and add a magnetic snap here. Okay? And go. Well, I'll punch the hole after I fold this in half because I do have double-sided tape on the back, but I do want to try to add my magnetic snap first because otherwise it's not hidden. If you have riveted magnets, this would be a great time to use them. I do have them, but they're not part of the pattern materials, so I want to stay close enough to those pattern materials as I can. So this is where we're going to be adding the outie portion, the female portion of the magnetic snap. If you have 14 millimeter magnets, this would work really well too. We are using slim 18 millimeter. Definitely recommend the slim ones for this. So I am marking out where my washers go. So I've made my little Star Wars spaceship and poke that hole along either side. And we're going to stab through. I'm going to peel off my double-sided tape before I go even further and I'm unable to, and then add my washer. Make that as flush as you can. And then we can open this up, folding over. You may need to add a little more double-sided tape. Make sure you're folding it centered. I don't think I got that quite centered. And that'll matter. I should have marked out my center. That would have been a good idea. Okay. So now is where we will punch those holes. And then we're going to grab our buckle. I said grab our buckle. There we go. Okay. So we're going to start with the buckle face up. Okay. So this is where it would normally sit. We're going to grab the short end that has the magnetic snap, and we're going to wrap that with the magnet facing behind. Poke the little buckle through and around the center bar. Now, if you want to add a little bit of glue here, you can. I'm just going to add a little bit of tape. I'm not going to be able to sew through that. But I'm okay with that. Okay. Yeah. So now we've got the folded edge looking at me. So we're going to fold this back up and over the center bar through the hole. So we've made a loop here, and then back through the center bar again. And now I did not top stitch the sides of my vinyl. If you wanted to, I would do that before you add your magnetic snap, but like I can't do that now. My magnetic snap isn't quite centered, but I'm okay with that. However, what you can do is either add a strap end right there. That would look really cute. You could rivet right there. That would help close it off. I think I might do a rivet, or you could top stitch just a little line right there. But I think I'm going to do a rivet afterwards. Take a deep breath. We did it. Now what we want to do with this is we want to flip this up and make sure it matches what the pattern instructions say to do for the flap. I'm pretty sure that that gets placed next to, but we want to reverse engineer that because we're adding it in the seam. So we're going to be adding the back of our flap, and then we're going to flip it right side out. So this would be within the seam, facing down like that. I'm pretty stoked. All right, and then we do it again. All right, I'm going to mark my center line. I'm going to peel my tape and mark my center line, which I realize is stupid, but I think it'll help me get that in place nicely. So again, outie, magnetic snap, washer, I don't know that like top stitching is super necessary for it. I think it looks nice and clean, but I would leave that to your discretion. Fold this in half over the double-sided tape. And you want them to be pretty flush because you can see a teeny tiny bit of that. You're not going to see much though. Just throw that anywhere. Yeah, that's much better. But yeah, you still would not be able to really top stitch that. I mean, you could do it but you might struggle. So if you're doing this method and you want to top stitch, maybe use a 14mm buckle. Okay. Again, just trying to like reverse engineer this. All right. Buckle face up, magnet facing you. Slide this through the center bar and go through your punched hole. If you want to add eyelets, you totally could. Grommets, what have you. No thanks. And then this is going to get tucked around the center bar, and you can use glue or tape. If you think you can top stitch that, you're welcome to do it. To quote my daughter, no ganks. Okay. Again, keep that bar where it'll end up. And then we're going to fold this up, back through, poke through, and then slide out. And then if you want to add a rivet or top stitch that, you can, or just glue it. Up to you. And then again, magnet facing up, looking at you. And you'll see when that's down, I don't think that's right. I think they go on the outside of that edge. I'm trying to look at my other one. The outside of that edge makes more sense, but let's check the pattern. Oh my god, amazing. None of that was correct. So it's 1 3/8 of an inch. Oh, Well, great. Yeah, 1 3/8 of an inch from the top inner edge, but that's before seam allowance because we're doing this after the fact. So 1.375 plus 0.5 is 1 5/8. No. About 1.75. Wait. 1 7/8. Great. That's 1 inch in from the bottom of the flap. So that bottom corner, I'm measuring 1 inch in and then laying the buckle next to it. That looks good. Good job. Go us. All right, now I'm going to base those down. I don't want them shifting. Can't have them shifting. And then we're going to grab the back of our flap, clip all that together, and depending on your materials, I would say this method is still domestic friendly. And you can see here my flap was off by a smidge in seam allowance, but my lining side, the back side of the flap, is what matters. So I'm good. Was not off by a ton. Alright, and here's what we're going to do to make this easier on ourselves is we are going to walk into the lining. So I'm starting about 2 inches over from that side edge. Keep our half inch seam allowance as consistent as we can. And then continue on sewing. And make sure you're not sewing through your buckle hardware. I measured enough that you shouldn't even be a risk. Okay, and then we're going to walk back out as well. So leave yourself a decent sized turn hole, pivot, back stitch, and then back stitch all the way as well. And that is what that looks like. So I'm going to cut at the corners there. And here. And I'm going to flip this out, press everything, and then we're going to top stitch in a U shape. And then take care to press out those corners. And up here too. And you really don't want this flap to be too bulky. And press that flat. Kind of massage those layers to sit well. This isn't going to be seen on the top of your bag. Like, it doesn't get sewn here, it gets folded under. So if it doesn't look pretty, it's not the end of the world. Just throwing it out there. Okay. And then give those buckles a little tug to make sure that seam is sitting nice and flat. And then we're going to top stitch that U shape. And I didn't trim down my lining, and I should have because there is quite a bit of bulk here, but I'm okay with it. I should have done it though. I even looked at it and I was like, nah. Yeah, plenty of clearance on those buckles. I may have to lower my magnets on the front pocket though, since these sit a little bit lower than the buckles on the pattern normally would. Well, that's excessive. My snips match my fabric. Love it. I really don't think it looks bad not riveted or anything though, like compared to the other one that I sewed, like how I did it anyway. But what you could do is you could add like a magnet here, or not a magnet, a rivet here, a rivet here, and a rivet here, and a rivet here to give it an extra look, but I'm kind of digging it. So that is our flap completed with the Lazy Method buckles. Alright, now that our flap is finished, we're going to move on to the front pocket, finishing that up. Gusset pieces. Okay. Don't need this anymore, but I don't want to lose it. So we've got our front pocket, slip pocket? What do we call you? Who are you? Exterior front slip pocket. We're going to measure 1 3/4 up. But I'm going to lower it just a little bit. I think I'm going to do like 1 1/2. Only because my buckles are a little bit longer because of my method of sewing them than the pattern instructions say. So I'm going to use double-sided tape to hold this down. And just lay that, pressing it right up against my ruler. And then I'm going to sew that into place. This would be another fun spot to add a woven label. But this accent is great for adding a little bit more to the magnetic snap. So make sure you're not using a super thick fabric. I think I initially cut out like a thick leather and I was like, who did I think I was? Because that ain't working. And then 2.5 inches in, we'll mark out our center. And that's where magnetic snap is gonna go. I'm just gonna grab my flap really quick, kind of lay out where that would hit, what that would look like. That seems good. I like the distance. It looks really cool with the fabrics I picked. Go me. All right, 2 washers. And lining up the washer with our center mark. Mark out either edge. I really want to design like a clicky pen, but this. A seam ripper. A clickable seam ripper. Just like a knife. Okay. Pushing that through. So there is what that is looking like. We'll grab the lining of that slip pocket and we're just going to sew the top edges together. Press that seam, make sure it sits nice and flat. I'm folding the edge of my lining down just a tiny bit so that you really don't see any of that lining peeking through the top. And then if you want to, you can baste all the way around. I'm going to do that only because I rough cut my lining, so I'll want to trim that out of the way. And then we're going to lay this on top of the pocket, the front panel. And I chose to cut this out of vinyl, one, for a little bit extra structure. Initially the pattern had stated to use fleece on this portion. I think it's since been omitted, but also because I didn't want to use up a print that's really expensive when I could use a little bit cheaper of a vinyl. Not that this vinyl is cheap by any stretch, but just, so I'll base that down. Okay, and that is what we're left with. We're going to start on the gusset now, and the gusset is really fun. It's different, but it's fun. Just bear with me. Okay, so I marked 3/4 of an inch up from one side. So I'm going to keep that side to the bottom, and I'm going to be adding my zipper to the top. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my zipper tape a little bit longer than I need it to be. I always like my zipper pulls to be hanging off to the side. And then I'm going to add 2 zipper pulls to this pocket. You want to make sure that they're on without any bunching. Double-sided tape at the top edge where we will be attaching the zipper. You aren't going to see a ton of this piece, and it becomes its own lining. So make sure you keep that in mind when you're picking your fabric for this. It becomes its own lining. Alright, laying this in place, I've got a little bit of overhang into the seam allowance. And pressing that down, and then we're going to sew this in place. Now we're not basting it into place, we're sewing it as if that were the seam allowance we were using. I made this mistake last time where I like basted it and I was like, oh no, that's not what I wanted. So now if you want to, you can iron this nice and flat or just finger press. And then in the pattern it says to mark 3/4 of an inch along the bottom edge, but I already did it. So we're gonna grab a little bit more double-sided tape. If your machine absolutely hates double-sided tape, make sure you get your iron out and just press everything really well. We'll peel off the tape, and we're going to bring up the bottom edge to that 3/4 inch line. And then this is up to you if you want to tape this next part. I'm going to, because I didn't last time and it didn't turn out well for me. So I'm just adding another piece of double-sided tape in the same spot over that seam there, pressing my zipper tape flat. We are going to be rolling this over to match where a lining would be, basically. So I'm bringing it up to meet my top stitch so you can't see it. Yeah, definitely glad I added the tape. Last time I tried to hold too many things at once and I kind of messed it up. So then we're going to top stitch that into place. And you want to make sure, if you can, and feel through to make sure you're grabbing the lining. I had to add 2 rows of stitching last time and it just didn't look great. Yeah, that looks good. So I would suggest, no matter what you're using, don't interface that section. Okay, so now we're going to be folding. Okay, we're going to line up the raw edge of the zipper tape. We're going to bring our zipper pulls in with the edge of the exterior. So we've got this little overhang here. We're going to fold that over the edge. And sew that into place with a 1/4 or with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So you want the edges of the gusset and the zipper, or the top zipper gusset, the top of the gusset. Anyway, we're enveloping it, and then we can trim zipper tape back down. And we're just going to repeat that on the other side, making sure your zipper is face down on the exterior of the fabric. We're going to line up the gusset piece. I have a zipper tape overhang, so we don't want to line that up. And we're going to fold that to make a little sandwich. 1/2 inch seam allowance. And we're going to pull this out. Make sure nothing twisted. And we're going to fold this back in half. And then we're going to be top stitching and basting. So we want to top stitch right here and then baste that open free edge. So I'm starting with that folded over clean edge under my foot, back stitch, and then coming down, stopping at the edge of that raw edge, and then sewing down. And then we're coming up to the other side of the gusset, so we want to keep our needle in and pivot and top stitch the other side. And then we'll mark out our centers. And I'm actually going to mark out the center on the exterior of the gusset too, just a little tiny something something, because we need to then attach that to the exterior main panel. And with that being a solid vinyl, we really got to get it centered or it's not going to look great. Okay. So now we have our front pocket. The top of our gusset is going to be at the top of the slip pocket. So we're going to center our zipper tape at the center of the top. And then we're going to be adding our lining piece over top of this once we baste all of this together. So as you can imagine, it definitely adds up in layers. So you want to make sure that you're picking fabrics that won't bulk up too much. And then it's up to you if you want to use double-sided tape or clip things together. You can snip in your gusset, and if you want to use like a thread zapper to snip your zipper, you could, but it could eventually fray over time if you perforate the tape. You never know. But we're just going to pinch and clip everything together. You could finish this part with binding if you really, really wanted to, but it really isn't too complicated to do it this way. You could also use staples or double-sided tape to help you hold these curves together. I will be using my screwdriver kind of as a stiletto to help me keep all the layers together and press anything that tries to move back in its place. I'm going to unzip my zipper a little bit. It'll help me get through the layers without the zipper tape trying to like get back at me. Alright. Make sure your bobbin is still pretty full. I'm going to start on the bottom right side, left side, I don't know. And then we're just basting the zipper in place, so you don't need to sew in too far. And I'm using my screwdriver to kind of pull on the edge of the zipper tape. And then the zipper tape kind of wants to bunch up, so I'm just unzipping a little bit more to help with that wanting to fight me. And just be really careful that you don't pucker the zipper tape. And now that we're past the zipper, it's a little bit easier to go around the gusset. Back to where we started. And then we will add our lining. All right, let's work on adding the lining. So we're going to put right sides together, and we are going to leave ourselves a turning hole at the bottom edge. lining up all the edges. The zipper is going to be not a pain, but it could be difficult to sew around. And then I'm going to mark myself the openings for where we want to turn the bag through. So we're going to get all that clipped in place. I am going to unzip my zipper and just, you really want to go slow around your zipper tape and make sure that your teeth are way out of the way, because you don't want to have gotten this far and then mess that up. Would not be good. So I'm going to start at that mark I made for us to turn the bag through, and back stitch, and then just go slow around the curve, making sure you press out any puckers that you can kind of feel starting. Alright, and then we're at our zipper tape. So we're going to line up our edges and just go slow. I can start to feel my zipper tape coming in, so I'm ever so gently pushing the tape out of the way. You don't want to cut it with your screwdriver or anything like that. Again, pressing it out of the way, lining up your edges, making a few stitches, leaving the needle in, lifting up, and pushing that zipper back into place. Okay, so I'm at the straight side of the zipper now. Feel pretty confident to just sew straight. Do a little unclipping and unzip this edge a little more, keeping your lining pressed in, or your exterior I should say, pressed in. You also have to make sure that you're sewing within or in further on your exterior fabric so that you're catching your basting stitch. Okay, past the curve. And just remember, there's only two curves like that. That's it, we just did it. The hardest part is done. Just kidding. I think the hardest part is attaching the pocket to the exterior of the bag myself. Alright, so I've got a nice wide turn hole. And then the only place we are going to trim is the bottom corners, where we sewed the bag together. You don't want to trim along the top because you'll risk hurting something. So make sure that you're following your basting stitch and you go, okay, yep, I came in past it. Okay, yep, came in past it. Okay, yep. Then we're going to flip this and top stitch. might have to be done for the day. Okay, so we'll push out the corners and then we're going to top stitch this. Alright, let's get down to business to complete this bag. I have been working on it all day. Alright, we've got this little turn hole here that we want to take care of. So we're going to fold this in. Make sure that sits flat. You can iron it. You could use a little bit of glue or double-sided tape. I'm gonna go ahead and use double-sided tape. Just because you really want to get that caught. Be mindful if you are using a domestic machine of the materials you've chosen. Make sure you're able to sew through all of that, because you really do want to top stitch this to get it closed. So I'm going to start somewhere I can hide. Start over here. You are going to be top stitching through the pocket, so I kind of like to do a little back stitch there. And then we're going to be pulling on these layers. To make sure that we've got the seam sitting nice and flat on itself. Okay, we're getting to this spot here that we need to sew shut, so we don't want to pull that seam because it isn't secure, if that makes sense. So before we get to it, I'm just going to kind of lift up on this layer here and just make sure everything is pressed nicely. And then before we move on to attaching this to the front of our bag, we get a really easy win with a slip pocket. So I'm just sewing all the way around the edges and then back stitching out. I'm gonna trim the corners. I'm just pressing out the corners. If you need to iron this, you can. We're just going to fold the turn hole on itself shut. This is going to be at the very, very bottom of that pocket. You're literally never going to see it. So if it doesn't look great, don't worry about it. But we want to top stitch this. Wow, thank you. I was just about to say I could hear my bobbin going, and we're good. Oh, shit. All right, not today. I did make 3 bobbins for this bag. I'm on number 2, so I think 3 was a safe choice. Technically, I have 3.5. I will probably want the half when I add the binding. Alright, now we can grab that front panel. I did not snip my centers when it was at the cutting table. Said I was gonna, and I didn't. Didn't want to do that. So I'm going to fold both of these in half. So I can get my center seam planned. Then I'm just pulling up the pattern. Okay, good, you can't see that. For those measurements. Because I forgot. Alright, so 3.5 inches up from the very center of the bag. I wish I was filming the first time I made this, because I was like, I'm sorry, what? I could not wrap my head around the fact that I was now adding this pocket, after all the work I'd done. I don't know. There's nothing wrong with this. It's great. It's a really fun method, but I was just like, wait, what? You want me to do what? Okay. I'm going to grab some double-sided tape, because I don't trust myself to not shift this. You wanted to add 2 rows of stitching around that slip pocket, you absolutely can. But it felt pretty secure to me. All right. And now is the scary part of adding the cargo pocket. So I've got my centers marked. And this pretty much like wraps around the slip pocket on the inside of that. All right, so this is going to be 2 inches up from the bottom edge. That's where the bottom goes. So I can't really use pins to hold this in place, so I'm going to grab double-sided tape. You guessed it. And I have watched Miko Crafts videos where they add the slip or the cargo pocket, and I'm just like, wow, incredible. Effortless. It just looks so effortless, and I'm over here like, you want to make sure that you're not setting it too flat on the bag, otherwise it won't have much of a 3D effect. All right, so we want it to be about 2.5 inches away from the top. And there is the outline on the pattern piece, and I just don't find that to be, like, it doesn't always work for me, so I figured I would find these points of certainty first. And then it should be about 1 inch, 1.25 inches from the outer edge. We've got fresh bobbin. So basically what I'm gonna do is just kind of smoosh it into place there and work my way around. Hope for the best. What's great is the flap covers a lot of this pocket, so if it's not perfect, it's okay. The flap will be there to hide your mistakes. It's a flap of forgiveness. So I want to push this corner back into its spot. Sorry. Okay, so I think I'm gonna bump it up a little bit just because of the way it wants to sit. So I would say it's not the end of the world if you don't use the exact markings as given. Just kind of see where it naturally wants to go. So this naturally wants to go like 2 1/4. Just trying to measure like 2 3/8 maybe. Yeah, so we'll bump this up to like 2 3/8. There we go. Smoosh it to create that corner. I often like to look at the back to make sure that everything seems even there, and I did okay. It's not great here. It looks okay up here though. But it is a 3D pocket, so again, it may not matter a whole lot, but yeah, that's pretty crooked. I thought I'd measured, but I guess I didn't measure in this corner, but we're gonna be adding our flap, so maybe it won't even matter, you know, maybe. Okay. Oh, look how good it looks. Oh my gosh. So that's gonna get folded under and sewed into place. So I just wanted to kind of lay it down and see. I think I'm going to go ahead and add the rivets. These have been sitting for a while, and you can see it's starting to puff up and lift. So I'll go ahead and add rivets right here. That'll help keep them from traveling in other directions. Okay, I've got those riveted. I've got those rivets attached. I'm into it. So just going to kind of set this into place, see what looks good. And then flip this over. Could always use double-sided tape to attach it, but we're pretty much just gonna go like 3/4 of an inch above this cargo pocket. Might be a little higher up than the pattern initially intended for, but it's what's working here. So I'm going to clip it into place right there. And then I thought this would be a really fun place to add a little woven label too. this one. Pretty as a rose. Okay, and then that folds down. Something like that. So then in the span of just the front, you've got a quick grab slip pocket here that would definitely fit a phone. Zippered pocket, I mean. You open that up, you got a slip pocket, a zippered compartment, and then a slip pocket there that you could add sections to. And now we are going to move on to completing the back panel, getting our linings ready. Alright, we're going to finish off the back by adding our strap, shoulder strap, and the connectors on the side. So normally you would add your slide adjuster and your snap hook and then attach this. I am going to wait. I only have black nickel slide adjusters and that's just not gonna work for me right now. I've also got my gusset pieces prepped here, handles, etc. But so we're gonna slide this in up to the top here, center that out, and make sure you leave a little bit within the seam allowance to prevent anything fraying or coming undone. But we're just gonna sew around. Make sure that your connector is straight within that seam. Make sure you're not sewing through the webbing. Oh my god, that would have been funny. And then we're going to trim just at that corner. It's not a good place to keep those. Maybe here. And then you can use this to pull those fabrics out. This is where you really test your strap. I'm going to use a tool to poke out those corners. And open up this seam. If you used just fabrics, you would be able to roll that, or you would be able to use your iron to press this open. This waterproof cotton should have no problem ironing, but I haven't tried it. And then we're going to top stitch. And then we have 2 D-rings on webbing. We're sliding this through the webbing and top stitching as close to the hardware as we can. All right, back panel. I'm gonna find the center. I love how in my cutting video, I'm like, make sure you find your centers when you're at your cutting table. It's so much faster. And then like, I did not do that. All right, and then it's up to you. I mean, you may have used the same print on both sides of this, but I decided to go rogue. Thought it would be fun. So if you add this way, that's what's going to point out on your shoulder, but I think I want it to go this way. You could even add a name tag or a, maybe I'll do that. I have some matching vinyl tags from the Heartwood and Hide. I might put that there. Although when you're wearing it, I guess you'd want it to go this way. Or do I want it to be on this side? I guess I'll do this side. I don't know. I just really like the idea of that. It's just a little pop. It's so cute. Alright, anyway. So I'm just going to roll that up for now to keep it out of the way. You could also tie it or tape it with some washi tape. And then this is the bottom of the bag, and I'm just going to add these at an angle on either side. I don't know that they require being at an angle. I think I'm just so used to making backpacks and guardians and whatnot. But I'm like, oh, it should be at an angle. And there are 2 of these so that you can decide which way is more comfortable for you to wear it as a sling. If you know for sure which one you'd want to wear it, I guess you could choose to omit that. Okay, and that is our back panel pretty much ready to go. So cute. Let's go ahead and work on our padded sleeve. In the pattern instructions, there is like a magnet and tab for it. It'll be fine. So I'm just sewing across the top edge. We're going to open this up. Press that and top stitch. If you wanted to quilt this now too, you absolutely can. Or add a little sew on tag. But I think it looks good. And then we're going to sew this into place. And then because I am finishing this backpack with binding, I can go ahead and place these right sides together, just keeping in mind that's the bottom, this is the top, this is the top. So I can just go ahead and baste all the way around. And then any of that excess fabric we're going to trim off, including the connectors. I know normally you would not want to do that, but we have to. Because we're going to be binding over it. And so this is the back panel. It's nice and padded because we've got 2 layers of foam, but it isn't too thick in the seams because we kept it out of the side seams for this laptop pocket. All right, let's go ahead and work on the gusset a little bit, and then we'll come back to our zippered pocket. This is going to be my handle overlay. I'm kind of stealing the Guardians overlay style. And then I am omitting those little tabs on the end here, but I am going to fold it over and tape it so it doesn't fray. In the first one I made, I did not add a grab handle, but that's because I was like, I'm over this, I'm done. I just want it done. But I do think it's a really nice addition to add it. So I'm just going to fold these under by like 1/2 inch. I have no idea where I got this webbing. It could be from So Girly Fun. My friend Susie may have sent me some, but the package was not labeled. It's really nice and soft though. Okay, folded that under so there's no raw edge. And then we're just going to do a tri-fold with this centered. And then we need our last piece, well, not last piece, second to last piece of zipper tape. So cut that there, and then we are adding a zippered pocket to the inside. So go ahead and cut that one and add my zipper pulls. There we go. Sometimes it takes a minute to get that zipper on just right. All right, I'm going to clean up my space a little bit. Right, I am finishing this bag with binding, as I've said a million times. So we're going to add double-sided tape to the zipper panels, exterior and lining, where your zipper will be attached. All right, let's add our zipper. Ben, I don't know where you want to lay. Do you want to lay there? Go on. Here. Lay down. Peel off the double-sided tape from one side. And I'm not pulling, just gently pressing the zipper into place. And then lining over top of that. Hi, kitty baby. Are you wanting to sit in my lap? Then if you're worried about your zipper pulls coming off, you can just add a clip to the end. Got that in place. Press that open. Fold our lining. And we're lining up the other side. Okay. I feel like tape only doesn't peel cleanly when you haven't pressed it down all the way or something. Okay. We're going to then find the center and add our grab handle. It doesn't matter which side you add it to, but it matters where you put it on the bag when you're done with it. If that makes sense. So we found our center. I'm going to grab some little scraps of double-sided tape. We're going to measure 4 inches from the center to line up the strap. And we're going to lay it about 1/8 of an inch from our top stitching, which is like 1/4 of an inch from the outermost edge. So make sure your lining is out of the way. So I've grabbed that from underneath. And I'm just going to do this box stitch really quick. And then the pattern has you cut these fun little tabs that you can then add over, but I'm good. And we'll line up the other side. There will be some 3D action happening on the handle, so that's cool. That kind of perks up. Get our 4 back to center. Press that into place. You can see how it kind of raises it up. Again, lining out of the way. If you do sew through your lining, it's not that big of a deal because we are finishing this with binding. Just make sure that your lining is in its place if you do that. Alright, bring the zipper pulls in. I can get my lining situated back into place. Right sides together. And then this is a 1/2 inch seam allowance to sew the exterior and the lining on. Flip that. Just going to start with one side and follow my interfacing. And then I'm top stitching only through my exterior fabric. I'm leaving my lining out of the way. Jen, what do you have? Make sure that you've brought your zipper pulls in to your seam before you finish it off. And then if things aren't quite even, just make sure that you center it out. Alright, and now we are going to baste all of those layers together. So we're going to put the lining inside the exterior. And clip all of that in place. And now the reason I don't top stitch through my lining when I top stitch the side panel is because now, if for any reason my lining is a little bit too big, I can fold it up at the side seam and you'd never be able to tell. So I'm going to roll this flat this way and clip. And then roll it this way. Everything fits really nicely. And so we're just going to sew all the way around the outer edges. And then I'm just trimming any uneven lining in exterior situations or any overlap like that. And then we can clip and find our centers. Oh, good. My center is my center. All right. I will go ahead and attach this really quick to the back panel. The last thing we need to do is add our zippered pocket. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that goes on the back of the bag. Yeah, it goes to the back. Okay, great. So I'm going to line this pocket, the strap here. And everything fit so well together when I was finishing mine up last night that it was so quick to use the binding. Like everything, it just was so fast. So getting those centers lined up and then kind of smooshing the rest of the bag together. So in those corners, I'm just kind of pressing the layers together. No such thing as too many clips. And wherever things aren't quite meeting up, I just make sure I keep it even on both sides of that part. And then just make sure that you've got the top of the bag right there by your handle. And then we'll just kind of sew around the outside edge. Don't come in too much further than your basting stitches, because we're still going to add the binding. Is that my bobbin right now? Wow. Didn't feel like we'd sewn that much. Oh, no! It fell into a drawer. Outstanding. Okay. I almost don't even want to add a zippered pocket because this is so much bag already, but I know I should. Y'all ever struggle with that too? Alright, and this is another place where I like to use the screwdriver to help me put everything in place. Make sure your hardware is out of the way. No, I'll add a zippered pocket. I want to. But I'm going to do that and then I'll come back to add the binding. Just because once I'm ready to add the binding, that's all I want to do is just like keep going. But oh my gosh. She's gorgeous. A vision, darling. Ugh. It is the best feeling when you're like running out of pattern pieces, you're running out of fabric. It's a good time. Alright, I've got my overlay, I've got my 2 lining pieces. So I'm gonna do my little method for a zippered pocket that I've been enjoying. Could always do traditional zippered pocket. But I find these are just so quick and don't require any iron use. So that's really nice. Okay, right sides together on those linings. And then we're folding it open, pressing down on our zipper tape. You could iron this part, but again, I like to just trap stitch it. Ooh, you can tell I'm getting tired. I am rushing through this. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. Right side of the fabric, we're going to get all the double-sided tape. Okay. And then tape on this too. Ooh, that's a wavy zipper. I should have ironed the zipper tape at least, but I think also me stretching the lining fabric caused that little bloop. It's okay. It's so hard too because you're like, okay, but you've gotten this far. Why are you? It's like, I'm ready to be done. Okay, center that. And then we're going to top stitch around the outside. So one thing I don't like about the water resistant canvas is it doesn't tear as nicely as waterproof canvas. Which, like, is that a bad thing? Not that it tears easily, but like it cuts. I don't know. Trimming away all of the excess. Always looks like a little ski mask or something. It's so funny. Oh my gosh, this looks like a 4-year-old did it. I'm dying. It's so bad. We might be able to fix it, to be honest with you. Like, you can't even tell now. And it's still mostly lined up within here, so we should be good. Alright, so now we're just going to sew this zipper into place. I like to start over here. Pivot. And just make sure that you bring your zipper pull into the seam. Flip that down, trim off the excess, and then trim away the extra zipper tape, and then we'll sew it shut. And this we can sew in a U shape because we're not turning the bag through a pocket. zipper pocket attached. Don't look at how crooked that is. All right, lay this into place. And then I'm going to flip this to baste everything together. Oh, hold on. Zipper pocket to the top. Yep, okay. Could have been bad. Okay, we've got some uneven fabric, so I'm going to trim that down. Get rid of these threads. What are you doing here? Get out of here. All right. So exciting. Top of the bag, top of the bag. And that is where we'll be adding that, but I am going to add my binding first. I don't know why, I just like to do one at a time. So, I'm gonna wrap this around, make sure I've got enough, and then I'll measure that again. And this is a lightweight, non-fraying binding that I sell on my website. As of the day I'm filming this, February 11th, we are out of stock, but I have a ton more prints on the way. And always would love your feedback. My friend at Weft and Warp Co. was one of the first people that I know of to offer like a printed, or not really printed necessarily, but to offer a water resistant canvas webbing, but it does fray, so it's not my favorite. But I know she's working to carry some that don't fray since receiving feedback. So I love a shop that cares. And then she also carries 3/4 inch wide double-sided tape. And I wholesale from her, and I call it Binding Buddy tape because it is so good for attaching your binding. Well, for how I like to attach my binding. Not traditional in any way, shape, or form. But we got tape on there. Just makes it so much easier to apply. Like, is that a chunk of my nail or zipper tape? It was zipper tape, great. This stuff tears so easily. Oh. The tape, not the binding. The binding doesn't tear easily. I also would not love that. Alright. Double check the seams. Make sure that no seam has been incorrectly sewn. Get all of your extra little threads out of there. And then we'll just fold this over the edge. And then I just kind of stretch around the seam. And you honestly, depending on your materials, you may not even need to use the clips to hold the binding on, but it does help hold it in place and kind of remind you where you've sewn and where you haven't. just pinching that over your ugly raw seams. They're not just yours, they're mine too. So yeah, with a bag this large on the inside, you definitely want to add pockets. This is a very like utilitarian style bag, so may as well not waste that big open space. Just make sure you're using lightweight materials when creating something like this, otherwise the bag is like, it's just too heavy and you're not going to reach for it. The one I made out of my mid-weight vinyl that I may have shown in the beginning of the video is super lightweight. I love it. But yeah. Hopefully, no, you can't see anything I'm doing. It's so hard. I keep things in my lap and I need to be with my face literally in the project, and I can't do that when I film overhead. But it is such a helpful view. Alright, and then when I get to the end, you could either trim it down a little bit, but I just fold this over on itself and line up to finish it off. And then we'll sew that into place. And then anytime you need to keep those edges down, you can use your screwdriver. Like right here, it's kind of coming off from the seam a little bit. We can just press that down. And I love printed binding. I just think it's so fun. You won't see those mistakes. You'll be too distracted by the cute print. And the reason I like to do one side at a time with the binding is then I only have to fight the edges on one side of the bag. Alright, so it's not incredible, but I caught everything. It's enclosed. No one's gonna know. Okay, top, top, top. There. Bottom, bottom. And then it's really up to you if you want to sew in the round or with the gusset side. The other side of this bag I sewed with the gusset side, but for some reason it was easier to sew in the round for the front panel. So, I don't know. You would think it wouldn't make a difference, but it does. There we go. Very nice. I wish I was confident enough to then just add binding at the same time, but no. Okay, and then sewing in the round, you just want to be careful that your puckers don't happen. So I'm just using my screwdriver to kind of flatten any of that out and just carefully rotating the bag. You're like, well, we can't see any of that. I'm kind of applying pressure with this hand here. As I'm rotating the bag. Anytime you need to readjust, just make sure you leave your needle in. Just kind of re-clipping. Make sure nothing is shifted. We're getting there. Technically, one of the last things to do would be to attach the snap hook and slide adjuster. But alas, I don't have the right slide adjuster, so I won't be showing that in this video. But it's just like any other crossbody strap. Point, we will unzip it. You can kind of just feel to make sure that you caught everything. And then we're going to add our binding. And then we're done with the bag. Very exciting. You can fold your binding in half first if you have trouble finding the center, but I just kind of eyeball it and make sure that the bottom side has a little more. Try to anyway, doesn't always happen. I'm gonna cut. It wasn't that much extra, but it was enough that I'm like, no. Okay, and then I'm just gonna time lapse through this part. We're pretty much done. I just have to kind of give it some shaping. Which isn't too bad, especially since like this binding is just so nice. I love the handle. See, it's such a big bag. I really think the handle edition is a nice touch. And it's simple enough. I'm trying to decide if this looks crooked or not, but I don't think so. Maybe it does. Maybe like once this is full, it won't seem so weird. Let's go ahead and add our slide adjuster. I'm just going to clip this into place for now, just so I can get an idea of what it looks like. So we're gonna go through the center bar, grab my snap hook around that, and then go back under to go on the center bar. So we're just reverse engineering what the pattern says to do before attaching it, which is okay. I may even decide to add a little strip of vinyl to the end of my webbing. I've been doing that lately. It's kind of nice. And then you can clip it to either side of the back to then throw it over. Like, why am I so stupid? So then you've got that little note there. It would be cute on the outside there, but I like where we've put it. So let's go ahead and see it in action. So yeah, I really like the 1.5 inch wide webbing. I love how far up this goes, so it's not digging into your shoulder. And there is what the bag looks like. There's not really any like easy access from the back side, like as I'm reaching around. If you wanted to, you could always add like a zipper pocket to the back side, but I think it looks really pretty and it's easy enough to like take off and on. And then you've got this handle here. You can flip it around, grab your phone, and like it really does feel nice and lightweight. And the shape is really cool. Again, you could make this look however you want. I love the quilting on the back. I think that's super fun. So yeah, definitely check this pattern out if you haven't already. Thank you for watching. I know this was a long one. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you later.